Chapter 406. Finally, the day has come. Baron Wilhelm looked out of the window with a stern face. The doors of the mansion that had remained closed due to all sorts of ghastly events were open as they once were after a very long time. A rare emotion of being moved seemed to seep into his withered heart at the sight. The Tenno knights, standing majestically in front of the grand entrance, were checking the invitations of the incoming guests while dressed in beautiful armor, polished especially for that day. Carriages of distinguished guests that had rushed from various parts of the West were as splendid as the magnificent mansion itself. There were no signs to be found of the aftermath of the horrible events that had occurred. On such a day, a shabby carriage that seemed to be there for official business foolishly mingled with the party guests, only to be driven away. Watching the scene, the Baron turned his back to the window. His butler was waiting, head politely bowed, for his master's orders. Has all the communication from the auction been received? Yes, the inspection and transportation preparations of the goods are all in progress. The security management team has prepared for your visit at any time, and the warehouse reports no problems, according to the Southerners. Eh? Those brutes themselves? What is Jacob doing? Baron Wilhelm mentioned the name of the old proprietor who ran the tavern where the secret warehouse was located. Normally, communication related to the warehouse was his responsibility. The Southerners have been contacting us these last few days. Jacob recently insolently requested more warehouse management fees because of his old age and poor health. I suspect he is neglecting his duties since we ignored that. He did such a careless thing at such a crucial time. An ungrateful wretch, even after receiving undue favor for so long. Once this matter is over, deal with him first. Yes, understood. Baron Wilhelm briefly felt annoyance at the news that the old owner had not contacted him directly, but he couldn't even imagine that anything had happened there without his knowledge. Southerner brutes are at least competent compared to a stupid commoner. Unpleasant fellows, but they have certainly carried out the orders of the Duke Tane. Then proceed to move the items from the warehouse as planned. I will visit the security management team at midnight today. Everything must be perfectly timed. Of course, you have endured so much hardship. In 2 days, just like last year, everything will conclude as you have prepared, my lord. Baron Wilhelm smiled at his smooth-talking butler's words. Yes, just endure today and tomorrow. Only 2 days. He had suffered so much because of the contemptible awakeners who had troubled various parts of the Tenno and Duke Paleta, whose only remarkable ability was to infuriate people. Despite the constant reproaches from Duke Tane, he was proud and bitter to have successfully protected the precious goods until today. Though there had been the regrettable accident of losing his younger sibling and sister-in-law in the process, what could be done? Once this was over, the Baron planned to demand compensation for his sibling as well, further securing his wealth and glory through Duke Tane. Duke Tane. Baron Wilhelm opened his mouth, thinking of the face that came to mind from his memories. It's a bit regrettable that the first son Pruel went away without seeing the conclusion of this matter. It was an opportunity to demonstrate the relationship between House Wilhelm and the future Duke Tane. Do not worry too much, my lord. Have you forgotten that before Prince Pruel left, he knew we were short of hands for the party preparation and recommended those who could be of use? There is no doubt that Prince Pruel must have helped ardently, considering Tenno as his second homeland and treating you, my lord, as his family. Indeed, that's true. The Baron secretly wore a pleased smile. It was unexpected. After all, Tenno is the place where Pruel stayed the longest during his young days, and who else would have seen him more frequently than my wife and me, even more than Duke himself? The mere news of his visit would lead everyone to discuss our relationship. The Baron had been more than generous to the young children of the ducal family who had stayed in Tennu for several years long ago. He presumed that, like him, Pruel must have cherished that time as a good memory, and he was satisfied with this thought. Now I must go out and greet our guests. Oh, by the way, what's the situation over there? The Duke of Peleta will also be coming here soon, was the reply. I see. Thinking that all the nuisances will soon disappear, even seeing that hideous man again seems less repulsive. The Baron laughed heartily, his face moving animatedly, having become more gaunt from the stress he had been under. A clear bell sounded in the distance, signaling an hour before the party began. Let's go then. Yudhir slowly reached out and took the elegantly extended hand of Kishir. Dressed in a black and white formal suit, Kishir exuded the air of a duke who was more playful than ever. His broad shoulders and slender waist clearly visible without a cloak, the brilliant flower and handkerchief tucked into his breast pocket all made it evident that whoever saw him was meant to feel he was not here for a conventional or formal occasion. His slightly disheveled forelock and twinkling mischievous red eyes sparkled through. I never thought I would wear this formal attire again. Still, isn't it more comfortable this time? Yudhir's clothing was similar to Kishir's formal attire. The only difference was that Yudhir's was accompanied with a long black cloak that nicely concealed the inner outfit. As they stepped outside, those waiting for them greeted them all at once. Among them were Nathan Zuckerman, who commanded the Peleta Knights, and Finn Eldor, who had stayed in place of the absent Ever. Yudhir saw Finn blink twice and slightly nod his head, a gesture that might appear to be a simple greeting to others, but was actually a kind of promise and signal between them. Did he finally find something? Finn had been wandering near the bars and inns where the southern merchants were at Yudhir's request, without the other members noticing. Even Yudhir couldn't entirely understand how Finn managed to evade attention. I must investigate this when there's time. The cavalry had split into two groups that day, as previously agreed. Most were with Ever in the security management team, and the rest remained to guard Baron Wilhelm's mansion, where the party was being held. However, since attendance at the party was strictly limited to the invitees, the only ones who could enter the mansion were Kishir and Yudhir Ale, whom he had designated as his partner. Of course, no one in the cavalry was unhappy about this fact. Duke of Peleta, welcome. As they made their way into the main mansion, the servants, who had been waiting for them, bowed in unison, their bodies bent in polite deference. Yudhir, while holding Kishir's arms, felt the eyes of those stealthily appraising him flicker over his recently healed left eye, sensing their surprise turn into disdain and fear. Yet Yudhir's facial expression did not change as he continued to walk. If those casting their gaze upon Yudhir knew that he found their stares almost refreshingly satisfying, as if they were a long-awaited reward, they would have likely been even more taken aback. The main mansion of the Wilhelm family was more splendid and dazzling than ever, filling with the majority of the guests. Nobles who hadn't seen each other since last year exchanged warm smiles, and the beautiful sound of music filled the hall with warmth. Of course, not all the conversations they were having were beautiful, but no one paid any attention to that. They were waiting for the rumored Duke of Peleta and for the mysterious events that were to occur in Tennu. The Duke of Peleta has arrived, announced a servant, drawing the attention of everyone present.